This is the iPhone 6. It came out in 2014 and it was a big step for Apple. It was a brand new design language and a very important changeover for Apple and a very big step in the right direction. This design, believe it or not, has stayed around ever since. This is the iPhone SE, the newest phone from Apple to stick to the same design language. This came out in March of 2020, just a couple months before this video. And the thing is, when we look at it at face value, what's really different about these phones, right? The design has stayed the same, but has the phone remained the same as well? That's what I wanted to find out. So what I'm going to do today is take a look at these side by side and just see what has happened in the last 6 years, and is there really an evolution to be seen between these two phones? So in front of me, I've got 4 iPhones. Now, all 4 of these are an evolution of one another and of, the iPhone design through the years. So this is the iPhone 6 that came out in 2014, iPhone 7 came out in 2016, iPhone 8 came out in 2017, and the iPhone SE that came out in 2020. So, there have been a few pretty big changes, even though the design looks the same. So from 2014 to 16, we had an aluminum design, but in 17, we moved over to glass, and this brought on wireless charging. Similarly, in 2020, we moved to a centered Apple logo instead of the Apple logo on the upper third, which was kind of a staple, but recently it's been moved down to the center. And as time has gone on, you guys can see the design has just progressively gotten cleaner and cleaner. The iPhone 6 had the antenna bands. The iPhone 7 had them, but they were a lot less reduced. The iPhone 8, it looks completely clean. It's just a completely different design altogether. But it still has iPhone written down here. And this is just like nothing on the back, just the Apple logo. Even just the marking. So here we've got, the iPhone, and then down here, designed in California by Apple, all that wonderful stuff. And then the regulatory markings. The iPhone 7, no regulatory markings. iPhone 8, no designed by Apple stuff at all. And then with this, iPhone is gone as well. So the design on the back has kind of evolved ever so slightly to become more and more clean until eventually you've gotten to, I think, what is the cleanest possible way to go. Now, the front of these phones, they are actually quite similar. This is where the design hasn't really changed that much at all. The one real difference on the front is that the speaker grill got ever so slightly bigger, but that's something you'd only notice if you saw it in person. But another hardware change is that in 2016, we lost the headphone jack. So the headphone jack used to be a thing that was lost along the way. Let's talk about what exactly hasn't changed with the iPhone 6 to the iPhone SE. So again, same design on the front, right? The bezels look the same. The screen size is the same. The resolution of the screen is same. It's got the same button layout, even till date. We've got our volume rockers up here. It's got the same, vibrate switch. It's still got the same power button on this side. SIM card tray, still same exact location. The bottom, the only real change is now no more headphone jack. So it's just a cutout for speakers on both sides, but one of them is the mic. But still, you just got the cutouts on the bottom. And then the Apple logo, the charging still stays right there. So hardware-wise, pretty similar. One weird thing, though, if you guys remember, Force Touch. Force Touch used to be the, new way Apple was going to bring on the way displays were. If you pressed something with pressure, they would pop up. Neither of these phones have Force Touch. Every other phone in the middle did. It was introduced with the 6S and lived up all the way to the iPhone 8, but it was discontinued with the iPhone SE. And they've got the same number of cameras and almost exactly the same battery size as well. And fortunately enough, that's kind of where all the similarities end. There's a lot to talk about of what has changed, so let me just blast through them. Number one, the display, while it is the same resolution and same size, it's got True Tone now, it's got a wider color gamut, it's got a brighter display, and it just overall is an improvement. The water and dust resistance did not exist on the iPhone 6. It was slowly added over the years, and the iPhone SE has pretty good water and dust resistance. The back, as I said before, it has a new glass back, and the camera bump has changed. It looks a lot cleaner, I think, than what this looked like. I think it just looked, even the way it is on the iPhone 6 and 6S, it was just in a weird location. I felt like this kind of positioning wasn't that good. This is all the way towards the very end, and it looks a lot nicer, and it kind of just lines up the curve of the phone, and that just kind of lines up way more. So I think that's fantastic. So while we're on the topic of cameras, the camera saw a pretty big upgrade. So the iPhone SE has a 12 megapixel sensor, whereas the iPhone 6 only had a 7 megapixel sensor. And the reality is, though, like the entire size of the camera, like with the module and like the bump and everything, is still smaller than just the lens, I think, of the iPhone SE. So a big improvement over there. The front camera also a massive jump up. It used to be a 1.2 megapixel camera back in the iPhone 6 days, and I'll be honest, the front camera was never a very strong suit of the iPhone 6. The quality was meh, and Android phones were doing it a lot better. I just, like, in the time, I didn't admit it, but it was the reality. The front camera on the iPhone SE, on the other hand, is 7 megapixel and way better comparatively in quality. You can now video record up to 4K 60 FPS on the iPhone SE, which you couldn't do on the iPhone 6. There was no 4K recording options at all. You can now take portrait photos on the iPhone SE. That wasn't available on the iPhone 6. The home button has a couple of changes. So the home button used to be actually a physical button that you pressed and it went into the phone. With the iPhone 7, Apple ditched the physical home button and you had a capacitive home button that stayed. It was a solid state button, so it didn't get really pressed, but it would give you vibration feedback that would make you think you're pressing a button, but it wasn't really a button. So what that did was it removed the moving part of the button, and I actually like that because the buttons would sink in after a while and they would feel bad. But with this, the button stayed in place. It helped with water resistance as well. So overall, great. Another change with the home button was that the Touch ID sensor. So Touch ID was introduced with the iPhone 5S. It kind of stayed the same on the iPhone 6, but then it improved on the 6S, and this has the improved sensor, the SE. It's got Touch ID Gen 2. It's significantly faster compared to the iPhone SE. I'm sorry, the iPhone 6. I'll show that to you later. The iPhone SE has stereo speakers, which is fantastic. The audio quality is way better. The iPhone SE supports wireless charging and fast charging. The iPhone 6 did not support any form of fast charging. Of course, you've got the processor, which is the A13 Bionic on the iPhone SE, whereas this only has an A8, which was, it's aged poorly, I guess, but processors aged poorly on everything. The iPhone SE has 3 gigs of RAM compared to the 1 gig, and the iPhone SE has Bluetooth 5 and Wi-Fi 6. The iPhone 6 had Bluetooth 4 and Wi-Fi AC. Now that I've shown you guys kind of all the technical differences, let me show you some of the real-world differences. And starting off, as I was talking about, let's look at just the fingerprint scanner of these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest both of my thumbs on the phones, and you guys will see how quickly they unlock. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, just that speed is unbelievable. All right, so just to be fair, let me try one more time. I'm going to turn the displays off and on the button. So 1, 2, 3. Look at that. That's a massive difference. Okay, one more time. Well, turn off the display and 1, 2, 3. Didn't recognize it. So yeah, there's just a massive difference between the two when it comes to Touch ID. So let me just get it in my hand. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, just a big difference. So let me show you guys quickly the benchmarks that I pulled onto this phone as well. So, benchmark wise, this is just like no competition whatsoever. I got 330 compared to a 1333 score on single core and 615 multi-core on iPhone 6 with 3249 on the SE. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad, but it's just a big difference. Similarly with the graphics performance, it's literally 4.5 times better. You got a 98,000 score versus a 459,000 score. Just very different. And similarly, Wi-Fi performance as well, that was a little bit surprising to me, is significantly better on the iPhone SE, where, I had 305 down on the iPhone SE, whereas I could only get 148 on the 6, and similarly upload speeds as well are better. So I mean that Wi-Fi 6 is definitely having an advantage over it. And let me just show you guys some more basic stuff. So let me open up Subway Surfers, a game that I guess, is, just to show you guys the difference. So 1, 2, 3, and hang on, before I do that, I'll just close every app that's open just to make it fair. So there we go. Ready, set, go. We will see which one opens up. So whichever one I can tap. Okay, let's go. Come on, clear off. Tap to play. I'm gonna mute that off. So this is already, started playing, and this one hasn't even started loading. So crazy. Okay. And no. All right. So finally, that was way too long. And this was actually even running a themed version that this one hasn't updated to yet. It's running the Halloween version. So pretty crazy. Let me open up. Let's see. Let me go open up YouTube, and we'll see how quickly that loads up, because that's something that you'd open a lot faster. So right off the bat, boom, YouTube has loaded up, and it's still kind of just sitting there. So finally, it's opened up. And I'm going to open up Twitter now just to show you guys what Twitter looks like. All right, 1, 2, 3. And already loaded, and this is just kind of sitting there. I'm waiting on it. Still waiting on it. Finally, okay, loaded. Boom. All right, let's see if it goes up. All right, look, it's just, everything is significantly just faster, but that's kind of what you expect on a phone like this, right? The performance differences are massively different. So now that I've shown you all of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on, and I'm going to show you guys the audio quality, and after that we will look at the cameras, where the results are honestly insane. So let's get right into it and show you guys what the speaker sounds like on both of these phones. So let's start off by looking at a couple of photos comparing the two cameras. And right off the bat, comparing the iPhone 6 to the SE, the one thing you'll see is the SE photo is so much more brighter. And this is not just like brightness for the sake of brightness. This is a lot more indicative of the real world. Another thing that is very clear and apparent right off the bat is that there seems to be a lot more detail in this photo. Just looking at things like the brick wall on the right side of the photo, or looking a little bit closer at the trees, you'll see that the leaves just seem to have a lot more detail. And overall, the photo of the iPhone SE is just so much more pleasing. And another thing you'll notice is right above the brick wall on the right side, the dynamic range on the SE is so much better. You can see that this is around sunset, so the sky is just like this orangish hue around the brick wall there. But on the iPhone 6, it's just kind of overexposed, and you lose the entire orangish sunset vibe that the scene had. So overall, it's just there's no competition of how much improvement the SE has. But the three key areas of improvement are the brightness, the detail, and then the dynamic range. Moving on, let's look at another photo that just kind of cements all three of the aspects that I talked about before. So right off the bat, this photo is brighter. You see a lot more detail. Just looking towards off into the distance towards this lake, there's a couple of buildings there, and you can just see them so much more clearly on the iPhone SE photo. Not to mention the sky, especially towards the middle there, there's just so much more to see there. The dynamic range is helping make sure that things are properly exposed, and you can actually see the clouds and then the shades of orange, whereas the iPhone 6 just kind of overexposes everything, and it's just kind of like a flash of white compared to what the reality is. And of course, as I said, it's overall way brighter. You can see a lot more detail, just like immediately in the very near towards the bottom right. You guys can see like the leaves there of that tree are just so much more apparent. So there's just no competition there. The camera has taken improvements by leaps and bounds. Okay, so switching over to the front camera. Now, I will be honest, neither of these are the greatest front camera photos, but the quality differences are clearly apparent. Number one, the colors. So the colors look so much more vibrant and just like pleasing on the iPhone SE. Just look at the pink on my t-shirt comparing them to the two, the iPhone SE just looks so much nicer and it's not overexposed. Another thing that's not overexposed is look at the sky. On the iPhone 6, it's all white. The clouds are completely gone, but the SE manages to hold on to a little bit of dynamic range. Even though it's struggling, it's not the greatest. There's still at least some clouds you can see. Overall, just detail-wise as well, the iPhone SE does a way better job. There are certain aspects where they look similar. Like when we look at my hair, it looks pretty similar in terms of the details, but other places, detail looks way better, especially when we look at something like the glasses and everything. Those look way more in detail. So, clearly, as I said, just way better improvements overall. Now, another photo of front camera, and I'll be like 100% honest, even the SE doesn't have the greatest front camera, but the iPhone 6 had one of the worst cameras of its generation, and both of these photos are horrible. Like, the noise on the iPhone SE just makes this photo I don't even want to look at it. It's that bad. I honestly think that the iPhone 6 photo is a little bit better because of the less noisy result that you see. Overall, both just very, very poor quality in the front camera department and low light. Finally, moving on, let's look at a low light photo side by side, and I think this is a big jump up. Now remember, the iPhone SE doesn't even have night mode. If there was night mode, the improvement would have been even bigger, but even without night mode, just processing improvements, look at the difference between the iPhone 6 and iPhone SE. It's a big jump. Like you can actually clearly see the Ferrari on the iPhone SE photo, whereas it's barely visible with the iPhone 6, and the colors as well. There's this very weird green tint to the entire iPhone 6 photo, whereas the iPhone SE manages to hold on to the color balance so much better. There's no obvious red or green tint either way. It feels very neutral and natural, so that's just fantastic. And it kind of exemplifies where small little upgrades, even though it's that same camera, a single camera on the back, a single camera on the front, small upgrades with both the software and the hardware can give you a big difference in performance. And I'm not gonna sit here and try to claim that the iPhone SE's got the greatest camera in the world, but when we look at it over the years, how simple improvements have made it better, it's just crazy. So let me move on now and let's look at the videos and see what the video quality is like between the two. Alright guys, so this is the front camera of both the iPhone 6 on the left and the iPhone 8 on the right. I'm sorry, the iPhone SE. It's audio right out of the phones. It's super windy, so I don't know if you'll hear anything, but this is what it looks like. Let me know what you guys think. Alright guys, so this is the rear camera of the iPhone 6 on the left and the iPhone SE on the right. Let me know what you guys think. Audio is right out of them. It is a windy day, so I'm not sure what exactly it sounds like, but they look pretty different on screen, but I never know. I am walking, so it should be giving you guys a good sample of what it looks like when you are walking with the EIS. So there we go. Let me know what you guys think. So overall, just some very astonishing camera results. So when we look at it, the iPhone SE, while it may look physically similar to the iPhone 6, the reality is that they are two very different phones. Almost everything on this phone has changed when we look at it compared to the iPhone 6. It's got a massively improved camera system, much better performance, louder speakers, and just overall a bunch of new features that improve convenience. Now, Apple has always been a company to not take big, massive leaps. They've always been someone to take smaller leaps but improve things at a more gradual pace, whereas, that is often looked as towards being uninnovative, towards being, just releasing the same thing. But Apple has nailed this down, and, they've taken this very likable form factor and just made this into a proven platform. It's, they've improved it in every way possible, and the small upgrades over the years has just massively increased the overall usability and simplicity of this phone. And that's how Apple has been able to keep this phone around for so long and still find buyers for it, till date. They still have a loyal customer base for this form factor, which when you think about it, that wouldn't be the case for any other brand, or nobody could pull that off, especially in the fast-moving world of consumer electronics. And I think there are very clearly two main reasons for this. Number one is it's something that us tech enthusiasts never think about, and that is people don't want to upgrade their phones. There is a market for that. There's people out there that are not good with tech. They don't enjoy tech. For them, it's a tool, and they don't want to buy a new phone and then have to relearn everything. They're comfortable with how to use an iPhone 6, an iPhone 6s, an iPhone 7, and what they want a phone. Maybe their current phone is just run down. The battery's gone. They've broken it. Whatever. They want something that's familiar and easy to use, and this completely fills that gap. People want something familiar. There's people who don't care, and this fits the ticket right there. And number two, this serves as an entry point. At $400, this provides you a very fantastic entry point to the Apple world, and I think it's a phone that will do well with the price-sensitive markets of the world, because at this price, it's like almost, all right, let's give it a try. If it doesn't work out, it's not a massive investment as compared to something like the iPhone 12 or 12 Pro. And I think that will definitely find more enthusiasm. So I've personally used the iPhone SE for over 6 weeks as my daily driver, and I was very happy with it. I came from phones like the iPhone 11 Pro, the OnePlus 8 Pro, these massive phones that are loaded with features and with, very amazing displays with 120 hertz and all that stuff. But I still found this phone to be so good. It has everything that you want. It's got everything that you need, and it just nails the important stuff so well. And it's got a very familiar feel to it. It's not exciting at all, but that's okay. That's exactly why this phone exists. It's not supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be familiar and easy to use. So it's just the iPhone SE is an embodiment of how sometimes evolution is way better than revolution. Revolutions are great, but you gotta, you alienate people with revolutions. With evolutions, you can improve an existing platform and really capitalize on a market that isn't ready to change over. So that's it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think of the iPhone SE and just the kind of progression of the iPhone lineup ever since the iPhone 6 in 2016. Have you had any of the phones in the middle there from 2014 to now, like the iPhone 6, 7, 6S, whatever it was? If you had them, let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on social media. I'll have all the links right here on the screen. And it's, of course, down in the description as well. So be sure to follow me over there. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more iPhone content coming right out. iPhone 12, 12 Pros, 12 Mini coming out soon. So that will definitely be on the channel. So be sure to subscribe for more iPhone content. That's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.